Now let's talk about translated fiction. If you're new to reading, translated literature can sometimes feel intimidating.
Welcome to Book Labyrinth, where we unravel the stories behind the pages. Different cultures have different storytelling traditions. Idioms don't always translate perfectly, and some books have a style that can feel unfamiliar if you're used to contemporary English language fiction. But The Longships is a fantastic exception. It's basically a giant Viking adventure, and it's exactly as fun as that sounds. Raids, battles, travel, danger, unexpected friendships, and a protagonist constantly getting himself into trouble. The author was apparently asked about the meaning or message behind the book and essentially said he just wanted to write a really fun story. And honestly, he succeeded. It's more than num-tum pages, but it's incredibly approachable. And that's another lesson for new readers. You don't have to read a book because it's important. Sometimes you can just read something because it's fun. That's enough. Next up is City of Thieves by David Benioff, one of the writers behind Game of Thrones. This is historical fiction set during World War II in Russia, and the basic premise is almost absurdly simple. Two young men are given a seemingly impossible mission. They need to find eggs so their commander's daughter can have a wedding cake. The problem? They're living in a city devastated by war. People are starving. Supplies are disappearing. The weather is brutal. And simply staying alive is difficult enough. So this tiny mission becomes a dangerous journey through one of the darkest periods of the war. What I love about this book is that you learn about history without feeling like you're reading a history textbook. You're following characters. You're worried about them. You're laughing with them. You're scared for them. And because of that, the historical setting becomes something you experience rather than something you're simply told about. It's fast-paced, emotional, and very easy to get into. Now, if you want to step outside your comfort zone, try Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. This one is completely different from most of the books we've talked about. It's set during the Black Death and follows a disgraced knight who becomes involved with a young girl and a priest as they try to find safety. But this isn't just historical fiction. It's historical fiction mixed with horror and fantasy. And it's dark. Very dark. There's violence, disturbing imagery, and some mature material. But it's also incredibly entertaining. And honestly, this might be the easiest book on this entire list to simply fly through. That's why I think genre variety matters. Maybe you don't like family sagas. Maybe you don't care about historical fiction. Maybe you don't want literary fiction. That's fine. Maybe what you actually need is medieval horror. You won't know until you try. One of the reasons people want to become readers is because reading gives you access to stories that have survived for generations. But there's a problem. Some classic books are hard to get into. You pick up something written in the 1800s, read one paragraph, and suddenly you're wondering if you're reading English at all. Charles Dickens is a perfect example. His stories are incredible, but his writing can feel very distant from the way we speak today. That's why I like A Far Better Rest by Susan Alleine. It's a retelling of Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, but written in a much more modern and approachable style. You get access to the world and story without having to fight your way through Dickens's prose. And that's actually a great strategy if you want to become more comfortable with classics. You don't have to start by forcing yourself through the original. Find a modern retelling, get familiar with the story. Then, if you want to, go back to the original later. Reading should open doors for you. It shouldn't feel like you're being punished for not already being an expert. And finally, Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This one might surprise you because it's probably the closest thing on this list to a modern BookTok phenomenon. It's also extremely easy to read. The story follows a struggling writer whose much more successful friend dies unexpectedly. She then takes her friend's unpublished manuscript and presents it as her own. And from there, everything starts falling apart. It's funny. It's uncomfortable. It's satirical. And underneath that entertaining story, it explores much bigger issues surrounding racism, identity, representation, and the publishing industry. That's one of the things I really like about accessible books. A book doesn't have to be difficult to read to give you something serious to think about. Sometimes the best way into a complicated subject is through a story that's simply fun to follow. And there's another advantage to reading popular books like Yellowface. You'll probably find people to talk about them with. And that matters more than you might think. Because reading doesn't have to be a solitary activity. So, where should you start? If you're a new reader, don't look at this list and think you have to read all 10. You don't. Pick the one that sounds fun. If you like dinosaurs, start with Jurassic Park. If you like crime, try In a Lonely Place. If you want a huge emotional story, try Pachinko or Lonesome Dove. If you prefer true stories, go with Shadow Divers. If you want history, try City of Thieves. If you like horror and fantasy, try Between Two Fires. If classics intimidate you, start with A Far Better Rest. And if you want something contemporary, funny, and easy to talk about with other readers, try Yellowface. The point isn't to find the objectively best book. There isn't one. The best book for you is the book that makes you want to read another book when you're finished, because that's how you actually build a reading habit. One book becomes two, two becomes five. And eventually, you stop thinking about how to become a reader. You just are one. And perhaps that's the most important thing to remember. You don't become a reader by forcing yourself through books you hate. You become a reader by finding stories you can't wait to return to. So if you're starting your reading journey, pick one. Give it a chance. And when you finish it, don't stop there. Find another. Because somewhere between those first few pages and the moment you realize it's 2 in the morning and you're still reading, you might just discover that you actually love books. If there's a book you'd like me to review, just drop the title in the comments. Need the ebook? Message me on Telegram. And if this video was useful to you, a small coffee donation goes a long way in keeping this channel going.